Okay. Put some chill music back on, and we're gonna get to it. Let's get to building HTML systems. The go-to place for this is this repository, and BHTMS there's some info about what I'm going to be working on. It's a website. It's a React website, but it's showing tutorials on how to build HTML systems, showing HTML concepts. We've been working on encoders, and we're trying to fast forward a little bit to spatial pooling. That's the plan.
Now one of my friends is joining.
Okay, Dean, thank you. So the live website, I think, is on here. Here it is. So you can see, if you click on this deal, do I have mouse pose? I like this mouse pose app because I can highlight my mouse. There we go. If you click here, it'll bring you to the actual live site that we're building. This is the latest deployment of the site, so you can see what we're doing. These are the types of components that we're creating. We're making interactive visualizations. And we're going to be moving on to creating a spatial pooling page today. And we're going to start building out some of the things that we're going to need to make that work. So here is the plan. First of all, so the things that we want to do is we want to have a simple cyclic encoder diagram. But we're going to skip this. This is going to be part of the envision. What we really need right now to move on to spatial pooling is a streaming display. Let's show you exactly what this is, what this looks like. Right here is how you can get to the old version of this that I was sort of going off of. And I think it is maybe at the bottom. Where is it? The bottom of the input space page. This is what we need. Something like this anyway. It's basically an auto-generated spatial temporal stream. So it just is it's a flow of data at this time. Here's a scalar data point. And we don't need to make this visualization to get to the spatial pooling stuff. Hence, on here I didn't really highlight it, but we do need to do this, create this automatically generated data at the page level, so that we can use it when we create React components, because that data is going to update. And each data point is going to be an update to any diagrams on the page that are displaying the current data point, right? So we're going to have, for example, this is the diagram I want to be finished with today. My goal is to finish this diagram today. It's going to be one rectangle essentially with a bunch of grid cells in it, not grid cells, just a bunch of cells in it, square-shaped cells. And there will be a button or a toggle or something. Wait a minute. Maybe I should do this. There's a toggle on the bottom. And there's two states. So this swaps between the two states. There's not two grids here. There's this. When you hit this toggle over here, it swaps to this state, and you get to see all of the different contextual information, all the different semantic information combined into one representation that combines all the semantics. So, and this is essentially our input space. When I talk about input space in HTML school, that's what I'm talking about. Good luck at chess, Mark. If you don't know what HTML school is, you should watch this series of videos. A lot of these visualizations that I'm going to be working through I've done in one aspect or in one way or another to support this video series. So there's a ton of information, especially you probably want to watch spatial pooling, the first spatial pooling video that talks about the input space and how the spatial pooling algorithm, or how a set of neurons that are performing spatial pooling connect initially to the input space. That's the visualization that we're going to be building here soon. And that's what we're sort of preparing for here, because this input space diagram we're going to be expanding upon that because we're going to talk about potential pools. And we're going to want to display that streaming data in all of these charts that we're going to create after this. is going to show that streaming data. So the first thing that I want to do is that streaming data bit. So we're going to do this first. Okay? Sounds like a plan to everybody? And we even have now, we go to our GitHub page. I have issues and projects. I moved everything off of Trello and put it here onto GitHub. And I think I have this pretty well organized right now. There's a couple things that I'm currently working on. One of them is a streaming scalar data. So under projects, I've got this separated in 3 things. The remaining encoder stuff, which is here, I'm keeping track of all the different things we have to do for encoders. Here, the bugs that aren't fixed and all that, and I'll continue adding, like there's time encoders and stuff that I don't have issues for. But we're gonna focus on the spatial pooling stuff because that's what people want to do. And the first thing we need to do for that is basically set up this streaming data. So let's, without further ado, get to the code here. This is my chatbot. This is building HTML systems. Okay. So I'm going to bring up VS Code, and I'm going to start a live share session. As soon as this all pops up, live share, and that should give me a link I can just paste. If anyone wants to join the live share session in VS Code, that's the link for it. And so let's first create a new page. Let's have a space so that we can do this, and we'll call it, for right now, let's just take, this should be pretty easy. Let's take one that's empty, like this, encoding time, and we'll create a new file, and we'll just say, maybe we should just put it on the component showcase. We could work on it there. Well, we'll make a page for it. And we'll change the name eventually. Let's call it spatial pooling for now. And we may change the name of this as we reorganize, but we'll call it spatial pooling for now. Spatial pooling, so this will be a page called spatial pooling. I'm just gonna lay it out and make sure that it gets indexed properly. So the layout should, I'm new at React still, if anybody's watching me, so the layout, I think, how do I need to specify to the layout that I've got a new page, or maybe it will just automatically do it. Let's find out. I have to run it. Remember, Dave, this is particular for you. If I'm not paying attention to you, use one of those sounds to get my attention about something. Because I seem to have a bad habit of, I think I have a menu somewhere. Header, there it is, header, that's all. So let's create one called spatial pooling. Again, I reserve the right to change any of these names. I just want to have a space to work right now. All right, so that should work. Now we have a spatial pooling page here. It says it couldn't be found because I named it wrong. So pooler, it should be pooling. All right, spatial pooling, coding time, coding categories, coding numbers. Now we will, let's look at our encoding numbers page, because it's going to be the closest one that we have. We do want to have like a state object. I'm going to be copying a lot because, like I said, I'm still getting used to React. So I want to look and see what I've done in other places. Try and use the functionality of React as much as I can. So I definitely want a state object, and the first thing I'll put in there is just a something called current data. And for now, it's undefined. And this, let's say this will be the page level data that I'll use to store that streaming scalar value that I'm auto-generating. So anything that I give this current data to as a React component should update every time something within this page updates that state. So I'm going to have a function on here essentially that steps through the state. Something like data step. I don't know. I'll call it data step for now. And I'm going to do it the way I should do it a certain way, right? I should do it with the arrow function with no, I don't have to do that here. This should be fine. I'm thinking of something else. Why doesn't it like that? Shouldn't that work? Oh yeah, I have to create a render function. Render, no. Why did it do that? Render, oh my gosh. I need a body? Don't you mean I just need a render function? Render. Why does it keep changing to canvas? Render. Okay, and then this can return that. That should work, I would hope. Is that a lint warning? Oh, it is a lint warning. I don't like to use semicolons, so this is new. When did this happen? TS 1005. So what is the linter that's doing this? I must have a TS, something called TS lint. TS lint. It must be running. It says it's not installed, but it must be running, huh? TypeScript, yeah. But I don't know that I... Let's see. So now this is a VS Code issue that I'm trying to figure out here. This is weird. This has never happened before. At least I've never had this particular issue. Will it compile? It compiles fine. No, it doesn't. Unexpected token, expected. I must have something wrong in my export. Oh yeah. Okay, I need to make this a class that extends React component. Shouldn't I do this? If I'm gonna do it this way, I'm gonna change this around. Okay, that, and then like I'm gonna export default. Should I call it spatial pooler or spatial pooling? Spatial pooling. We don't necessarily like calling it spatial pooler, so that's better. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna make it a class. I like making it a class. I feel like feel more secure. Okay, so one of the things I need to do, I'm gonna go look at my old code and see how I did this data step thing, because it wasn't too hard. If I remember correctly, it was pretty simple. But I have to remember, I think it was in the input space. Potential pools. Set up dat GUI. On these load random potential pools, there's a function somewhere in here that like starts up a maybe it wasn't this. Let me go look again. Streaming scalar data. This is on the input space page. Input space. Just trying to figure out what I did here. Input space. One of these initial perms, or one of these is making that happen. But I don't remember how I did it. Either potential pools or initial perms. So is it initial perms? Set up dat GUI. That's not That should be hoverbox. Create, get random perms, update percent connected display, update displays, draw histogram. What is that bit at the bottom of the page that I did? The streaming, there's got to be a component for that. Is it a display? I swear it should be in here. Coding time, unless I put it in like the wrong spot, which I might. I mean, sometimes I do. Cyclic discrete simple encoding. Streaming scalar window, here it is. So I put it in the combined encoding section. Okay, so I have this thing called streaming scalar window. Okay. So let's find this. So there's time step, slices per period. Okay, so here we go. Next semi-random sine wave data point. That's this is the function that I need to basically replicate. Let's see how we're using it here. Fill window with data. Window size. All right, so we're just so set data after set, and then I've got something that will start the timer. There we go, starting a timer. And this is what actually, yeah, put next semi-random sine wave whatever data point. So I need to create a component. See, I don't know if I want to create this as a React component. I think it's just going to be a page element that essentially just something on the page that does this. So I can attach it to the, not the encoding numbers, the spatial pooling page here. So that's what I want to do. So let's try and find the relevant code. So I know that I'm going to want this next semi-random sine wave data point function, which probably means I'm going to need a lot of these other things too. So I'm just going to copy and paste a little bit here. And hopefully this is all I'm going to need. And the rest is just sort of minutia of setting everything up and doing the diagram bit. But as far as the data creation, I'm hoping this is all I need. We're going to try. So first of all, I know this is silly, but I'm just going to paste it in here and see the stuff we don't. So min and max I'm not using, because I think, why am I not using that? Next semi-random sine wave data point. This must be for, whoops, this must be for the display, which I don't need. Because so this is going to give us a value and a time marker, and the value is going to be scalar. We're not encoding it here. And the time marker is just basically the time, value and time. So each data point is going to return a value in time, and you can just call it. I don't even think I need to use this fill window thing, because that was just for the display. So really, I just want something. I can just call this. I think that's it. I think all I need to do is call this, and it will return me that. Is this being used? Yes. Time slices per period? Yes. 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 So now I need to decide, because data step decides at what point in the wave you're at. Yeah, thank you. So I need that utility. Yeah, so let me go to, I'll grab that from, I had that elsewhere. Where did I have that? I thought I pulled it from here. It was in, oh, it was in a component, right? Component diagram. Yeah, these helpers. Utils, we put in helpers, so we're going to need to add another helper here. So that's one thing. which is like, it will be called get random arbitrary. And that's not coming from helpers. This is going to come from what? Components helpers? Components diagrams helpers. So it really shouldn't be there, right? Well, I'm gonna do it for now. And I'm just gonna put a fix me. But that's where I'm going to put it for now, this get random arbitrary. So let's get the, go and get that from the old source. Where was I? Stream Scalar window, utils, dot, utils, get random arbitrary. It's simple. I don't, if that's all it is, for now, I don't even need to put it in helpers. If that's all it is. But I am going to use this in other places, so for now, I'll do it for now. Constant precision, get arbitrary equals. Okay, get random arbitrary. So that should work. Don't need this anymore. Get random arbitrary, time marker, new dates. Dude, I'm not using anything. I do need those brackets. Okay. As you can see, I've opened up my IDE so that people watching can help. Oh, here we go again. Oh, no, that was right. See another reason why you shouldn't declare variables on separate lines with commas. It's just confusing. This should probably be here. Counters, data step, jitter. See, this is all weird. Okay. So this is adding a jitter randomly. This really shouldn't be done this way. Whoops. So Dave, what did you just change here? Was this too complicated? I can't remember what it was. Plus time step. Okay. So this time marker that I started with, I just went like a year in the past. Okay, that's something different. The time marker is still there. Okay, that's what I thought you changed. Never mind. So I just wanted to start from some arbitrary time, I think in the past, like a year ago, and just step forward. So that's what it's going to do. The time marker is associated with like the starting point of the data. And it is dependent on the time step. So the time step, let's see, one of these, or is it data step? Data step, period, counter is, I'm trying to figure this out. I remember this all worked, obviously, but I'm trying to figure out what it does, or how I do it. I should be able to call the next semi-random sine wave data point in succession at any point and get the next step, because I'm keeping track of what is it that moves. It's this data step. So we initially start with a data step. That should probably be a member of the page class, and that's what accumulates over time. It's not state, right? But I should put maybe I'll just call it step equals, and we'll initialize it just as we did here. So let's take this stuff down. I'm gonna take this stuff down. I'm hoping we can get all this stuff whatever's necessary. See, now I want to add a constructor because some of this stuff is just for a calculation. I don't want it all to be members of the class. Like time step, I don't think these should all be class members. What I want to end up with here. Hold on a second. I'm starting to hesitate on what I want to do here. Periods. This doesn't change. Counter is. Oh yeah. It does change. Yeah, it just keeps track of what period of the sine wave I think we're in. And so this was a way that I could, I put this in because I thought I could add artificial patterns here. So like every third period I could change something so that you could see longer term temporal patterns. So I was starting to remember what I did here. I created a sine wave pattern so that it was associated with a day. So this is was all engineered so that the sine wave that you see here is essentially daily with some noise. And as you can see, there's a pattern here. There's bump 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 bump. And I want to be able to change this in the future. Does it make sense to make it its own component or helper method? Probably so, yeah. Probably. It's not really a React component. It's just, I mean, I could just make it a class. Like data generator, scalar stream generator or something like that. Initialize it with some, so there's a good question, David. If I want to just create a non-React class, I wouldn't want to put it in components, would I? Because these seem to be all React components. Pages and components are both React. If I want to create my own, what's the thing? Should I put it in like a lib directory, lib? Hey Falco, you missed the beginning because you were reading papers. The only thing that you missed that you might be interested in is this. You can try those out and see what you think. Check your comments below. Okay. Oh, there you go. Oh, I see. So I could create it as a React component. It wouldn't have any markup though. At this point, it's just a data component. Whatever would be giving the data as a prop.
It's puzzling. I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like this before.
Exactly. A high order component, but it provides state. So I can use this to provide state as sort of a global page state that will then bubble down to whatever, bubble up, whatever you want to call it, to other React components that are listening for that state. Is that the idea? So this could generate state, and then the rest of the page can use it as a state variable. Okay, let's do that. Let's create something in here. It won't be a diagram though. It's not, honestly, it's not really an input. Let's create a folder in here, just call it data, because that makes sense. And we'll call it a stream generator. Stream generator.jsx. Does that make sense? And I'll start from something I know and just pull things out that I don't like. We'll call this stream generator. It will not be, I'm gonna get rid of all this stuff. There won't even be a render, right? I'm not gonna render anything. There won't be any, won't be an ID, Won't be any values. I might send it something. Probably will send it something. We'll no D3. We will use the helpers now, though. No encoders, no on-off color, none of this jazz, none of this stuff. So just a class. Oh, trying to join Discord audio not working. Can you hear me? Can I hear you? No, I just can't hear you, I think. I muted myself in audio, but if I can hear, if you ever get it figured out. But I think I'm on the right path here. I think I'm on the right path. I don't know.
Oh.
Hey, there you are. Now I hear you.
I was muted.
Okay. Do you need me to be unmuted in Discord for you to hear me?
Can you hear me now?
I can. I can hear you.
Okay, yeah. So the higher order component, you can do it either two ways. You can either do it like with a function that says like with data stream or whatever, or you can just make it like a React component that you pass it the children component, like I do it in here. And what it'll do, it'll just forward the props.
Oh.
In this case, the state from the parent, and it'll forward it to it so that it will any children you pass it will re-render whenever the data updates. And then in the child component, you just take in a prop called whatever you want data and it'll get passed down. So the outer component won't render anything.
Yeah.
It'll just render the children that you pass to it.
So
it's pretty simple to set up.
That's what I want to do then. Yeah. So I'm basically making a parent component that provides data for any children that are defined within it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That makes sense. So like the children I haven't defined yet.
Yeah. Yeah. The children would be spatial pooling or whatever the component that you're going to render the diagram with that needs the data. Yeah. And then it would just automatically get the data for it. And what's good about that is if you wanted to, you could still use a spatial pooling component and without the higher order component and pass it data yourself, but this just makes it, reusable.
That makes sense. That sounds like a good plan. Do you think this is a good place to put it in data stream generator?
Yeah, I would create something like that, like a data stream as a React component, and then that would maintain the state of the data and stuff. And since it's a React component, you can still give it props, like the HTML attributes. You can pass it for like settings or anything if you want. And then but that would handle the state of what the data is. That way the child doesn't have to worry about it.
I could give it props associated with the data feed and then put whatever children I want in it.
Yeah, that helps when testing too. Like when you write a test, if you wanted to, for the spatial pooling component, you could pass in a static value for the data and make sure it renders correctly. But, yeah.
That makes sense. Okay. So that's a good plan. That's what I'm gonna do. Let's rename this though. Instead of a generator, let's call it this. It's definitely a data stream.
It's more like a data provider.
Yeah. Okay. Data. Scalar data provider.
Right.
Okay. I'll change this. Scalar data provider. Whoops, that's weird. Must not have copied right. Okay, now I want to see how I'm gonna. So I can create it like so. And I would put this, so let's get rid of this. We don't need this, we don't need any of this stuff. We're not gonna data step in this point. All we're gonna do is like right here, we're gonna create a the provider and put whatever in it, right? I've got nothing in it right now. But, so here's a good question. Okay, so let's I want to put something right here that shows that the data provider is doing something, like emitting something every second. So how can I get access to its state from like this line?
So So in this case, the scalar data provider, would you want that wrapping spatial pooling, or do you want it wrapping like another separate child diagram
I
component?
want it to wrap only the diagram components that will be using its data. So individual components, like I might have a cyclic diagram that needs to be updated by this, and that will update itself when it gets an update. I might have 7 of them, you know.
Would they all be sharing the same data?
Yes.
Okay, well then this would wrap. I would probably wrap it wherever I'm using spatial pooling. Wrap that in a scalar data provider and just pass the data to spatial pooling. That way you can pass it to all the children.
The spatial pooling page?
Yeah, the spatial pooling. This is the page, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so then move the scalar data provider around. Let me see. In this case, instead of doing this, it would be like a functional high order component, where you say like export default spatial pooling, it would just say like with scalar data provider, and instead of being a component, it would just be a function. That way, just pass the prop to this guy. I know. So if you want the scalar data provider, you need that data. If you're going to have multiple children inside that, because normally like an element has one child for a React component, but if you have multiple ones in there, then it's best to just wrap the whole page in the scalar data provider, and that way spatial pooling would have a prop called data, and then you can pass that data to whatever diagram you want.
Okay,
so
how do I wrap the whole page, like you said? Instead of doing this, which is what I was trying to do, you said there's some way I can put it outside of the spatial pooling page.
Yeah, I'll do it real quick. It's super simple.
Okay. No fire truck. It's false alarm.
So let's see if it lets me create it. So I'm going to create a higher order component function, right? That basically it'll be called like with.
Where are you creating this?
That's what I'm asking you. It's going to be like it'll be a function. It'll be called like with scalar streaming data.
Oh, I see. Yeah. So sort of where I'm trying to define that function right here. I mean, you could do it right here, right? Or you say, but I will use this on other pages. That's the thing.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So like normally what people do is like next to components you would have like HOC, or you would put an HOC folder.
HOC meaning high order.
High order components, basically something that wraps other components and provides something to it.
Okay, interesting. So like an HOC at a sibling level of components, and that's that's not a folder. Hold on. New folder, HOC, and just like then I'll just move this.
Here, I'll create a file.
Okay, you create a file. Repair programming.
It's not.
Whoops.
Let me refresh.
I wonder if you can create a file on my file system through this. Pair programming is better than Apple programming. You did it. Okay. Interesting.
So then basically in here, right, you have a class.
Yeah.
Where this would have been a normal high order component, but since you want to, it's easier to kind of do it like this. So then in here is where the state would be. where you would have all your state and data and everything. And then anytime you want to update data, you would just say, this dot state, this dot set state, and then you would update it. And then what would happen would that would re-render this.
Okay.
Any properties you pass to this higher order one will automatically pass, but then it'll pass in a new thing. Like let's say that it was called scalar data.
Yeah.
Then in here, where is it? Spatial pooling. Down here, you would say first you would import. With scalar.
All right, from HOC. I'm gonna take this. This is confusing me. I'm gonna take it out because that's where we're gonna do this here. All right.
So now you have this. What you can do is, instead of exporting this directly, you can just say.
Just wrap
and this
it.
is kind of how. Yeah, this is kind of how Redux works too. It wraps it with like this state management thing to where you can handle re-renders from like immutable data. But anyway, so this would be like with scalar data. Now when this in here, now this guy is going to have access to this dot props dot whatever we called it, scalar data.
So this dot props will give me the props of whatever the scalar data
Whatever you pass,
state is.
It'll give you whatever you pass to this guy, as well as an additional prop called whatever we set this guy to, scalar data.
Okay, so if I go to right, so this is where I would set up the state here.
Yeah, this is what's going to manage the data.
So is this where I would say state equals?
Yeah.
Okay, and so my data, and I'm gonna actually, what this will be is, value, comma, time, essentially. That's what this is gonna provide an update for constantly. And then here, I haven't written that yet, but when I do.
Do you want to pass value and time as separate props, or?
No, I want one data point that has a value and a time.
Okay, well then I would just wrap this in like a data attribute.
Oh, I see. Okay, so just
can either do that,
call it basically data, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then here I would say this dot state dot data.
Yep, exactly.
I'm gonna call this data 2. That was just a cop. They're on to me. My kids are selling me out. Okay. All right. Thanks, David. I'm getting this. So now, since I've given this data component, whatever I put in here, when I say this dot props, I should be able to say, let me amend this. If in my render here, like this is where I want to prove out that this works. So I just want to show the state right here.
Let's just do this. This dot props.
There we go. Yeah. That way we'll get the whole data point out and just see it. So we'll see. Okay, this is great. So I can see the whole thing that's in props. But now I have to create it. If I looked at this right now, it would just be.
It'd be null. You would have an object with value and time.
Let me get rid of this. Let me clean this up a little bit, or I'm gonna get confused.
And any other props you pass to spatial pooling.
Right. Okay. So I'm just gonna put this, and I just want to see something. This should work now. I should see a value. Yeah. So I just want to see something here. Make sure that nothing is broken. Yeah. So I've got helpers I don't need, I think, and here. not going to use this anymore. Okay. Layout, spatial pooling. See if I'm getting any errors. Looks like I should see something here, but I don't see anything. Where are we?
Oh, I know why. That's because of this. Where'd it go? The import right here. It's default export, so you don't need this one.
Oh, that's what the default does.
Yeah.
Okay. Still don't see it here. Oh, there it is.
You want to start yours?
There it went. Okay, so then I just have to say dot data, right? Props dot data.
Yeah, this dot props dot data. It should be there. Yeah, there it is.
So now, if I get this right, this should update I want this to update every second or whatever, depending on how I configure it. So now I will go here, and all I need to do is essentially write a trigger to kick it off.
Yeah.
And
like an interval.
Yeah, run next semi-random whatever every, and then update my state every whatever. So I should put that in a function, right? Like start or something like that. Start.
Yeah, I would make it the start and stop, and then you see another thing you can do here is you see how it's returning the wrapped component.
Yes.
You can even wrap any component you pass through it with another component that has like start stop buttons that can handle start and stop in the stream.
Oh, okay.
And then we touch the child component at all.
So here's a question: how do I call this start and stop from the spatial pooling page?
Well, that's what I mean. Like you could render the buttons here, and then this button on wrap component, like around this, would say like this dot start, this dot stop.
For now, let's assume that it just
that you want the page. Well, then you could just say like on start equals this dot.
Oh, okay.
And then in the page component, you also get an on start prop. Well, you can name whatever you want: handle start, do start, whatever you want. But.
Okay. So I could call. So if I did this, I made this start, and I'm just referring to the other start. Then I could call this dot props dot start. Is that right? Like anywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that makes sense. I think that's what I want to do. I'll create a start and a stop that way. Then I can easily call it from wherever. Because I don't know exactly how I'm going to be starting and stopping this. I just want to be flexible.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the start, this is where we need to like put the logic in. So I want to have, I think I'm going to end up creating a constructor here. No, maybe I don't. I don't need to do that. I can put it all in the start function. All right, bear with me. This is going to be messy for a little while.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. First, I just want to see it work. And then, this is actually something I'm going to make that a step function. No, I'm gonna keep it the same name for now. And, figure out how I can just call it straight up. So set interval. I'll just hard code it for a moment.
You just pass the next semi-random sine wave as the first parameter.
Oh yeah, I could. That I have to put this dot next semi-random.
Where? Yeah.
And then if I want to bind this properly, don't I need to do the arrow function? If I
No, it'll already be bound because if you look at the start and stop method, down in the wrap component, I put that as an arrow function. So what that'll do is that'll already bind to this.
Okay.
So if you just passed like this dot start
Yeah.
to the child, then you'd have to bind it in the constructor.
Okay.
Or make this an arrow function.
Okay.
Start and stop.
All right, that makes sense. All right, so I have access to this here. This time step, slices per period. I'm gonna try and leave as much of this as I can. I'm trying to figure out what needs to be a member, because I think it's data step that ends up being, no, and counter. Data step. That's how far to step ahead in time. Okay, that should not change. Okay, it's the counter that changes. I think that may be the only thing that's important to keep track of as like a member. So if I want to introduce a member variable here when I call start, that I can access down here in next semi-random way, whatever. Is it just this dot counter?
Yeah, you would put counter up here.
Okay.
As like default, and then this dot counter. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, it's my tabbing.
It's okay. This dot counter here. I also need to. Why am I using X like this? I don't know. I don't think I need that. Okay. Adding the data step, jitter.
Okay.
Time marker. So I need this also. This time marker needs to be set on start. So this is also updated per time step. Periods is something I can add here. Let's move this down where. Okay, data step. I can use this here. Whoops. What did I do? Just trying to, I'm figuring out, I can put this all down in this function, most likely. Am I using time step? Yes, so these are all gonna go down in here. And once I can see it working, I'll work on cleaning it up. So these are the only two things that need to be set on start. All the rest of the stuff do not change. They're essentially parameters of the generation function. Yeah, that's all we need to do. Is instead of returning, is set the state. Perfect. With a new data point. Great. Okay, so when we start, we'll start this. I'm gonna pull this out. Update rate. I think that should be probably the only property that I want to send into this is update rate. So I'm gonna call that this dot props dot update rate. And down here, yeah, I'll just leave it at this. I'm assuming I'm gonna get an update rate in milliseconds. So that's gonna be something I'll put here. How do I specify a property when I create this scalar data thing? Do you know, David?
Yeah. So you basically want to pass a prop when you call that with scalar data.
Yeah, exactly. I want to send an update rate as a property. I don't have to. I could hard code it right now and come back to it. But it would be nice to see it change dynamically.
So where is it? Oh, it's right. So in here,
I gotta find
do
you.
is I'm at the top.
No, I see it. I found the button to find your cursor. Okay. So that's...
Whoops.
Seems like the natural way to do it is to send the props into this function somehow. You guys hungry yet?
Nope.
Nope. Okay.
Survived slightly longer.
Hey everybody, what's going on? Is anybody out there following along? Give me big hand for David Truman helped me out with all this.
What was it? What was it called? Oh, update. Right. Oh, what would it be?
Yeah, like 1,000. That'd be perfect. So you send the props first. Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, so this is a function call, and that's going to return.
Oh,
component.
Okay, I get it. Okay. That's magic. There's a lot of magic in React. Okay, you think it's gonna work now?
Yeah, I mean, you're not saving the handle and the interval, but that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, that's okay. Okay.
Now you just have to call start.
Now I have to call start. And look, every time it's getting a new one. So now I just have to call start from the spatial pooling here, and I can call start right here, right? This dot props dot start. No. What's going on here?
Yeah, you put a button.
No, I don't. I want it to automatically start. I don't need a button.
Oh,
It's just gonna run all the time.
This is a class, then you can just do it like a component to mount.
Oh, right. Okay. And so this will be easy. I will programmatically pause it at some point. So I'll add a pause button and we'll deal with that. But for right now, I just want to see it working. Uh-oh, shit, get random arbitraries not defined. That was, I'm just gonna inline that because it was so simple. Where was it? Get random arbitrary. It's basically this. Math, random, min-max. Where am I? Scalar data. Here we go. Get random arbitrary. That's why I had let min equal 0. I could parameterize a lot of this stuff, but I don't know that I'll need to. So 0.25. So basically, this is my jitter. Okay. Get time of undefined time marker. Okay, so I don't have a time marker. That was 70. Oh, right. Well, wait a minute. Am I calling this before? Yes, honey. Yes. It's this one. Okay. Let's pause this. I don't think we really need to. I don't know where the debugger thing went. Oh well.
Oh, I can't see your server. It's not sure.
Oh, yeah. Here, let me do it. Let's see. How did I do this last time? Share. How did I do this last time? I remember doing it. Oh,
on the live share
server. Got it. Local host 3,000. I don't know why it won't do it unless I put that in, and then it changes it. Okay. Did that pop up? Okay, cannot get, I'm still, don't have a time marker when I'm at, right here. And my debugger's not working.
Oh, because this time marker is undefined. Are you defaulting time marker? Oh, time marker's not even declared up here.
Oh, right. So just like counter, I need to declare time marker. And it's initially going to be on, well, no, I can just set it to this, I guess. And then once, well, start needs to do the same thing. These can both start out at undefined. I'm going to do that just to be explicit, knowing that initially nothing is happening. You have to call start for those to actually be initialized. Then we set the interval. Okay. Let me get the debugger out of there. Okay, we're still at time marker get time is not defined.
Oh, because of this. This isn't it. That timeout. So it's set. Interval. One second.
I still don't know why.
Because you're doing the set interval, and you're passing just the method right here. So
yeah.
Let's see what happens if we do this as an arrow function.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah. Okay, now it's the counter. That's because I'm not using this, I think. This dot counter, and probably this dot time marker. Here, it's okay.
Oh, math sign this counter.
There it goes. Hey, that's fast. That's too fast. That's weird. I expected it to be once a second.
Yeah, maybe the props or something.
I might have.
It may not be picking up this correct update rate.
I might have messed with it. I might have assumed it was going to be something different.
Oh, okay. So this should be props update, not this.
Oh. There we go. All right, perfect.
Yeah, since you're. Yeah, there you go.
Yay. That's what we need. That's exactly what we need. So it started off May 31st, and it's moving forward an hour a step. So this would go a long time before it goes into the future. But that's exactly what we want. Okay, perfect. So let's. I'm gonna look through this. I'm gonna clean up and commit and see, and at least we'll have a step. It's sounds. You have to bang sounds to list the sounds, and then sound space sound name. You probably want one for a cow, don't you? That's yeah. I don't have a cheer.
Wait, is that Minecraft cow?
I don't know where the cow came from. But this sound works. There you go. I should definitely add the cheer. I'll let you guys. I'll add some more sounds later. But here's all of them are there if you hit bang sounds. So let's. I'm in the right place, guys. While I'm code reviewing, you guys can look outside. Let's see what we have here. In the header, I added a spatial pooler tab. In the helpers, I added this and then didn't use it. I'm gonna remove it. and with scalar data is entirely new, and I can get rid of all of this stuff. Okay. This is a wrapper. Extends React component. Data value to new date. Make this undefined initially, just like we did in the previous one. Or so it's obvious that it's no data initially. You put in an interval handle. Where else is the interval handle? Oh, you've got to stop. Okay, cool. Wait a minute. You called it interval here. There you go. Okay. Great. So we have start and stop. Let's test this stop. Let's do this. Set timer. This. Oh my gosh. Did you see that autocomplete? That was awful. Let's set it to stop updating in 3 seconds. Let's see if that works.
What is a set timer?
Whoops.
Oh, set timeout. Oh, okay.
Set timeout, sorry. I spelled it wrong. Set Tim out. Tim gets a timeout.
He's an adult, correct?
Alright, so it updated a few times, but it didn't stop.
That's because you called start again. Did you want to call stop?
Yes. Yeah. That's why it started going faster and faster and faster, because now there's a bunch of them. Okay. Initial data should update twice, maybe 3 times. Okay, it stopped. Great. Cool. Cool, David. Awesome. All right, so we're starting the data. Let me continue with our review here. Interval handle. So we're using the counter, time marker, and an interval handle to keep track of the data. Initializing the loop. All of this stuff could be a constant.
And I mean, every time you click start, it just resets. I don't know if you want that or not.
Every time I click start, it resets.
Yeah, like so if you click.
That's fine for now. It'll be obvious. I mean, we'll end up pausing it at some point, but for now, I don't mind. I just want to make progress. And as we get further along and we get some of these more complex diagrams, we'll come back and mess with some of this to add new features, but I don't want to over-engineer anything at the moment. This one is constant. Is that all going to work out? Yeah. Data step is constant. Value is not, counter's not, min is constant, max is constant. Again, these are things that maybe I'll parameterize in the future, but for now, doesn't matter. Jitter is constant. Periods is not. Yeah, and this is something that I could change. This is where I could add more patterns. So this is the pattern that I'm adding. I'm saying if we're in the 3 period, then we're going to add more value to it. So that's when you look at this thing. That's why every third one there's a dip, and so there's a group of 3, something like that. I added that arbitrarily, but we can do stuff like that here using this periods, keeping track of the periods. So this all looks good to me. Stop is a clear interval for the handle. This is perfect. Okay, great. And this is also great. We're going to, now that I see how this is used, I want to call this start data, because in this context I don't know what start means. So let's go back here, and instead of start, we'll call it start data. anywhere else. Actually, no, that's fine. We'll keep this start. Whoa, 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 whoa. How did I get here?
Minecraft.
Okay, we'll leave that start. What I want to name is this start data and stop data. Right, that makes sense, because that's just the interface I'm exposing to components that are using it. I can keep using start and stop here. So here I'll use start data. Got our layout, and all we're doing is dumping the data to the screen. Let's make sure that I didn't break anything. Everything still looks good. Let's commit this. So hold on. Let me go look at what we're working on. We're working on this Scalar stream thing, temporal data. Let's go to this issue. I think I should be able to say fixes number 26 in my commit message, and we'll automatically close this. Fixes.
Oh, that's cool.
26. Adding automatic spatial data generator. React. Let's leave it at that.
And that closes it when it's merged?
Yes.
Yeah, that's nice.
So I'm going to commit it, and I'll push it to... It'll close it if it gets pushed upstream or if it gets put in a PR. Let's put it in a PR. Let's do the right thing. Building HTML systems. I can say get push origin data stream. No? What do I have? Upstream is HTML community. Origin is, I think, oh, that's right. Get push origin master data stream. Okay, so now I have a remote branch called data stream with what's on my local master right here, and I should be able to create a pull request pretty easily. Yeah. This is the stuff. Create a pull request. So, and it's even got your changes in here. It added you because of the co-author thing. That's cool. Files changed. So once we merge this, which I will, I'm not paying attention to the Travis CI thing. We don't have any tests anyway. Once we merge this, I should be able to see this is closed. Awesome. All right, so now we look at our projects. We got some stuff done because that was we needed this. Whoops. To close off some encoder diagrams. We're going to need this random data thing for the combined encoder diagram, which is here. All right, so let's back to spatial pooling. The next one is create the combined encoding one. So this is sort of the big deal. The hard one, we're going to do D3JS, and we're going to create an encoding, essentially, that takes that data point and encodes it into this space in different ways. So that's what we're going to work on now, and I'm going to take a quick break before we do that. But that's next, and so that's all merged. Get pull upstream master. I should get sync. Yep. And I even got, what did I get? Some stuff that I did earlier. Data, automatic spatial data generator. Oh yeah, I added a diagram warning. That's just for down here. This diagram's horribly broken, so I just made a note that the diagram's broken. You can see why it's broken right there. But I'm not going to fix that right now. Okay, guys, let's go. We're going to work on this one now. Close this, close this. I've already got it open. Quick break. I'm going to take a walk around the building just to get the blood flowing a little bit. Thanks for watching. I'll be right back. Play with the sounds while I'm out. Feel free.
Oh, here we go. Oh, please do. It'll be funny.
They're super fun. I don't do the no one. It's a no. It's awful.
It is. It is.
Don't use.
Telling someone not to do something makes them more curious and then do it.
That's why I said it. I know.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
That's a good one. All right, where's my keys? Forgot it. Oh, you have it.
I hung it up actually.
You did.
Bruh.
Bruh. Somebody said bruh.
Oh, I bet that was my friend. Or maybe, I don't know. Someone brud.
Somebody brud.
Who brud? Who brud?
I gotta stretch my legs a little bit right now.
This conversation can serve no purpose anymore. Goodbye.
What do I do? There's someone in the dirt.
Downstairs.
How many stairs? What?
No, I'm not only to the second floor.
What? Who is it?
That hurts. The brain. Let me know when you guys are hungry so we can go. We can go down, eat at the Chinese buffet downstairs. We're gonna go eat at the Chinese buffet downstairs for lunch. Okay. we have done a good thing. Falco saw an interesting lecture by Professor Nancy Conwisher. I have never heard of her before. You'll have to post a link or something on Discord or here or wherever, and I'll try and take a look. Oh yeah. Let me show you my notes. I'm not actively looking for neuroscientists to interview now. You wrote a forum post about it? Maybe I missed it. I'm not looking for neuroscientists at the moment to interview. I would do it if Lisa Feldman Barrett agreed to join, but I'm not actively pursuing it. All right, so we did the auto-generated data. We're not going to do this diagram right now. I've got a ticket for that later. That's the display diagram. We're not going to do that. So now we need to do this combined encoding diagram. So what we'll need to do for this, since we've got like a, let's get my drawing mojo on here. We've got, what do we have? We've got a data point, and it has a scalar value and a time. So we need to, the scalar value we'll use in, we have to encode all this stuff. So we have to encode the scalar value, and then we have to encode the time and decide what exactly we're going to encode. Well, I want to encode, let's see, what I usually like to encode and for this will be day of week, weekend, day of month, and hour of day. So that will be, so this is also code day of week, weekend, hour of month, hour of day, basically. Day o week, weekend, hour o month, hour o day. I think it was it hour of month? Day of month, sorry, I don't know why I was thinking hour. Day o month. And hour of day. So this time encoding is going to essentially encompass, I'm going to highlight time encoding. This is all the time encoding. And the scalar encoding is going to be this bit up here. So they each get their own section, and the time encoder is going to be broken up. You know, there's one section is for this part of it, this section is for another part of it, this section is for that part, etc. So day of week, weekend, day of month, hour of day. And then this is going to show them all together. That's the plan. So first we need to draw, well, first we need to encode. First thing we need to do is do all this encoding, and this is going to turn into bit arrays. So we'll have an array here of encodings, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, whatever. And we're going to have one for day of week, and one for weekend, and one for day of month, and one for hour of day. So we're going to have all these encodings when we're done with this. And they're all going to be coming out of here. We also need to combine them into, essentially just one large encoding that is all of them at once. Okay? And so we're going to use this, I want to use the same data source. So the easiest way to do this, I think, is to essentially take all of these encodings at once that we get here and put them all into one array. But instead of having, an array of 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, instead of that, we'll have an array and we'll have a data object, and we'll just tell, okay, is it on? Well, let's just give it a color. All it really needs is is a color. So we're going to recreate this data array every time someone interacts with the diagram, or why can't I move? Okay. Or the data updates. So if the data updates, we have to do the encoding step, get all of these together, and then turn it into something that provides a color. I mean, it could be simple. I mean, it could be like a hex color, comma, another hex color, whatever. We could just turn them into colors. A different color for day a week versus weekend versus day a month, hour a day. So let's try that. So before we do any components, before we create any React or like any displays, any D3 stuff at all, we should really just be talking about how we take that scalar data point and encode it into an array of something that we can display. Because in the end, all this display needs is an array of values, and we can write the D3 to render it properly. All right, so there's our plan. We're gonna push through on this until my kids get hungry.
Oh boy.
Mom will be here in like an hour, so I'm getting hungry.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're gonna get hungry before us. You're the kid.
I'm not the kid. I'm not the kid. All right. Falco's getting hungry too. Yeah.
Join us.
I'm not gonna be having
NPN.
more hours, so
You're not going to be hungry for a few more hours.
I know that. I had tuna burrito. I'm full. That's the good stuff.
Okay. All right, so let's write a component. We want a combined encoding, so we do need a space for this. So we definitely want to create a React component for this, and it's going to be a diagram, even though initially we're not going to render anything. So we'll create a new diagram in here. I want to move this helpers out eventually, but for right now I'm going to leave it. So we're going to call this a combined encoding. I hesitate. I almost want to call it input space, but I think this illustration is more about illustrating the combined nature of encoding several things into one space. Falco says, why did you code the spatial pooler? I have not coded the spatial pooler yet. All I'm doing is making space to show spatial pooling visualizations. I'm not gonna write the spatial pooler until I have to. And I will have to as soon as we get, this doesn't need, so we're all the way up here. This is where we are. Next is gonna be potential pools. I still don't need to write a spatial pooler for this. Next is gonna be receptive fields. I still don't need to write a spatial pooler for this. Initial permanences, don't need to write a spatial pooler. I don't need to write a spatial pooler until we get to inhibition, until we get to the mini column competition. And as you can see right here, must run a spatial pooler to get this mini column chart. That is where we are going to need to write the code of the spatial pooling algorithm. But for right now, we don't need to. We're just talking about concepts of spatial pooling. We're talking about setting up the input space so that then we can define what potential pools are. And we'll use these concepts when we build the spatial pooler, but we don't necessarily have to do any of these spatial pooling computations at this point until we get to the mini column competition. Okay. So I'm gonna leave this here because I like seeing it. So imagining I had exactly what I wanted, that this was what I wanted, a combined encoding. I'm gonna go look at, I always have to look at something else so I know the right way. Yeah, something like this. Spatial pooling. This is going to be combined encoding. component, from the diagrams. And then we will add combined encoding here. There won't be anything in it. And I don't even know that we will, all we need to send it is data. Data is this dot props dot data. This is brilliant, I love this. This, that I can do this makes me feel better about using React. That makes you feel good, David. Shouldn't it be combined encoder? No. So I'm trying to, well, that's not the way I'm making the diagrams very specific to the concept which I'm trying to illustrate, not the things that I'm doing. So what I'm trying to illustrate here, of course that's broken, but what I'm trying to illustrate is how you combine encodings into the same input space, into an input space. There's nothing called a combined encoder. That doesn't exist. There's something in NUPIT called a multi-encoder, but that's not really what I'm trying to show here. I'm just trying to show the concept of combined encoding. So I'm going to call it combined encoding. All right. Now I need to write the thing. I need to do the thing. So I'm going to steal the stub. Actually, the closest thing, let's steal the scalar. Which diagram do I want to steal? Simple scalar, discrete encoding. Cyclic encoding. It doesn't matter.
Do you need D3 for this?
Yes, definitely. Yeah. D3 is what is going to draw all the things here. But first, I'm not going to do it yet. First, I'm just going to do the encodings and just, make sure that my data is set up. And then D3 is data driven, and I'll just have an array that gets, so every time the data gets updated here in my combined encoder, I'll process it. I'm going to use this. Combined encoding. I will need an ID. I won't need a value. I'll just have data, and I don't know what that is. Can I say object? Because it's going to be an object probably. I'll just leave that. I'm not going to worry about the style. I will need the encoder. Probably will need this eventually. But I'm going to take everything out. I'm going to take everything out for now. I know I'll need that. Yeah, I'm going to take everything out for now. And we're just going to worry about... I don't need that. I might need this. I definitely will need this eventually. And I will need an update as well. I shouldn't have removed that. There we go. I'm removing too much. But I'm just trying to set up the structure of it. Component did update. Component did mount. Anytime params change. So params aren't going to change. Oh yeah, the params... This will change whenever the data changes, right? Yeah, component did update. And this is on the mount. This should be good. Orient D3, I'm going to put off, but that's probably very simple, very similar to what we'll actually have. Reset encoder, I know there won't be a number line. Value marker, those are specific. Output cells are specific.
So is this like a read-only view of the total combined encoding?
Yeah, the combined encoding. Excuse me. Tell me if you think something's wrong. The only thing that, yeah, it's totally read-only. The only thing that it will respond to is if somebody clicks this thing, and it will just change to black and white. So it's not going to change any data. It's just going to get updated whenever the data stream changes. This will update, and it will render in color or black and white depending on that toggle.
Yeah, to me that's just a really super simple React component. I don't know why you need.
You don't know why I need what?
D3.
Because D3 is how I'm going to draw all of these rectangles, boxes, the colors.
Oh, okay. I thought you were just gonna draw just like divs. Like
Oh,
divs
no. I'm going to use Rex. I'm going to use SVG.
Oh, okay.
Everything's, yeah, all the stuff and everything beyond this is all SVG, all D3 renderings. But I'm not doing it yet. I don't know what I'm doing right now. I just want to get the data update, do the encodings, and get a data array that contains the information that I'm going to use D3 to render. You know what I mean? So we will probably have this render output cells that has the same type of deal going on. And probably the treat cells thing too, although this is I'm gonna leave render output cells for the moment, but I'm not gonna call it. Actually, I'm gonna just comment it out. And for our render, this again will be an SVG. This is probably all relevant. Style, there's not going to be an on mouse move. There's not going to be a hover on this one. It's not going to be a number line or a value marker. There's only going to be output cells for now. Okay, yeah, get rid of this. This is going to be encoders. You know, I'm not even sure if I'm going to use this, so I'm just gonna get rid of it. This might be different. The orient is I think I'm going to use because I need to use that to set up D3 scaling. And this one is going to happen anytime our data updates. So this is our mount. So we should essentially we're going to call this dot update anytime the data updates. Okay. So I just want to ensure that this dot props dot data is updating in this component. It's not rendering anything. Well, it is rendering something, but it's not doing anything. So let me see if I have everything. It's getting data. Let's see if it works. Debug style is not defined. That's okay. I can fix that. Don't really need a debug style. Okay. So I should see a console log of the value. Yeah, so I'm getting the updated value. That's good. Now I need to translate it, or do the encoding bit, right? So I need to create some encoders. The scalar one's pretty easy. I'm gonna see how I did this in so I have this already in the diagram that I've already done about the encoding anyway. So let me see how I wrote the encoder in the old source. There it was. Streaming scalar window. Encoder. Code. Scalar encoding. Okay, so how did I get that encoder? bounded scalar encoder. Okay, so I'm going to have a scalar encoder, and I'm going to have 4 different cyclic encoders that represent time. Does that make sense to you guys? Why I would do that? Because time encoders are essentially just periodic encoders that loop over a time period. So we're going to create one scalar encoder for the purple here, and that's weird. And then this is going to be a cyclic encoder for day of week, a cyclic encoder for weekend. So we're not introducing any new concepts if you followed along and you understand what cyclic encoders are and why we use them. I'm pretty sure there should be a cyclic encoder in here. Oh, there's not. I never got around to it. I don't think I did that yet. I did some in the time encoding. Here's the cyclic time encoding. Right. So basically, here are the encoder parameters that I'm going to end up using for these encodings. One for day of month, weekend, day of week, and time of day. I use the same cyclic encoder. I just send different parameters into those. I'm not going to display the encoders, we're just going to use them. So I think this is going to be useful. This time encoder names and the encoder parameters, I'm going to steal that because that's pretty much exactly what I want. So in the combined encoding, let's just set that here for now, knowing these are our time encoder params, the labels that we'll use for them, and actually colors are in here too, so that'll be useful. And the other thing is the scalar encoder, which streaming scalar. Which was this bounded scalar encoder, which was essentially just given a min and max. I just need min and max, W and N, and that's it. So we're going to want a bounded scalar encoder and then that cyclic scalar encoders. So that's going to be in, oops, go away. I think we need that anymore. Cyclic encoder and a bounded scalar encoder. We're pulling those both from simple HTM, which exists already. That code is already there. Hey, David just left for a bit. Oh, it didn't work.
This conversation can serve no purpose anymore. Goodbye.
I don't know. I knew there was a goodbye in there. I didn't remember what it was. Okay, so on update, we know we have updated data. So we want to essentially do what we're doing, encode the data. We were calling this reset encoder, but let's call this encode. And we don't need to send anything to it because it's going to have this props data. So I'm going to change this render. Oh, I already removed it. So we're just going to call this encode. And this is going to take that data, which is this.props.data. The value is going to be this.props.data.value. The time is going to be this.props.data.time. Okay, and the value encoding. So one thing I want to do is create the encoders. So scalar encoder. Bounded scalar encoder, and this is going to be I don't know what I should, N and W, I don't know, W 11 and 50. Min is 0. Max is, it was pretty low. Let's just say 1, just to see. Okay, so we've got our scalar encoder. So when we encode this, we should be able to. Well, hello, soy hydrated bot. Thanks for joining. How do you keep hydrated with soy? That's soy's, I guess, soy milk.
Hopefully.
I don't think that person's even actually watching right now. They just like strafe the page and hit follow. Okay, so scalar encoder, encode the value, and then this is going to be our value encoding, and let's see if that worked. Value encoding. Let's see if we can see a value encoding along with that. No, it exploded. Scalar encoder is not defined, because I have to say this. I've been live for just over 69 hours. By somebody, the soy hydrated bot just told me I've been live for 69 hours. By this point in my broadcast, I should have consumed at least 420 ounces of soy to maintain optimum gynecomastia. What is? That's crazy.
Is it just a robot someone sent to your channel?
I don't know. It's a bot. It's some kind of bot.
That's wacky.
Yeah.
It's just.
I don't know why they think that I've been online for 69 hours. Okay, this dot scalar encoder. Let's see if this worked. All right, it's working. Do you see that? The encoder is working. That's great. That's great. So I'm gonna stop logging the props so you can just see see how the encoding's different. It's moving. It's moving along. That scalar value's moving. Okay. Good. We've got one thing encoded. So we have this value encoding. Now we need to encode. We need to use our other encoders. So let's see. We need a time of day. Let's do day of month. Okay. Day of month encoder was new cyclic coder. Oh, you know what? Hold on. Before I do that, I know that broke everything. I have a feeling that I already have a time encoder in simple HTML. That sounds like something I might have done. Oh, okay, so I've got a weekend encoder already. All right, so I could use that for the weekend. And I have a day of week category. So I have a day of week encoder. And you create it. Oh, you don't create it with anything. You should, oh yeah, you create it with a W. So I can use the day of week category encoder. This is great. Okay. So I'm gonna use the, uh-oh. Okay, stand by, I got a phone call. It's spam. It's a spammer, I can tell from the area code. So, okay, so the day of week encoder. Let's do that first since that seems pretty simple. Day of week. Your result, that's okay. Please don't ask soy hydrated bot anything. I appreciate you coming in here and suggesting I drink more soy, but I'm gonna stick with water.
That is the strangest thing.
My son thinks you're hilarious.
Why would you come and ask about that?
He's just trying, he's doing a public service. apparently. Okay, so I'm not going to do this day of month thing. I am going to do, what was it? Day of week. Yeah, day of week encoder. So we'll do that first since I already have one for it. Day of week encoder equals new. And I think this is simple because I can just pass it. Oh, I can't just pass it I thought I could pass it a time, like a time value, and it would, but I don't think it will. But that's okay. It's easy to get the day of week from a time. We'll figure that out. New day of week category encoder, and I'm gonna have W be 11 again. So that just means that's how big the bucket range is going to be for a day of week. And it's a category encoder, so that means total it's going to have 77 bits for 7 days, so one for each day. We could make this smaller if we wanted to. Generally, you want to keep it odd. I forget why, but it has to do with, I think, I can't remember. Okay, so let's try and do the day of week encoding first. So we're encoding. We have the time value here, which should be a date time. And now I have to remember JavaScript get day of week from date. Is it just get day? If it's get day, that's excellent. So I can just say const day of week encoding equals this dot day of week encoder dot encode time dot get day. Let's see how that works. Of week encoding. So we're just going to console log it. And let's see what happens there. Day of week category encoder is not a constructor. Really? It should be. Maybe I'm importing it wrong. Or maybe it's being exported. Day of week category encoder. This should all be there. Let's see, how am I exporting? How am I exporting? Here in the index. Oh, I'm not exporting it from simple.js or from simple HTML. I don't have the day of week encoder here. Or do I? Weekend encoders. So I'm gonna have to release a new version. I think I'm gonna have to release a new version. Because I've got a day of week category encoder and I don't have it, I'm not exporting it anywhere. This is an easy fix. It's just sort of frustrating. Coders weekend. Coders. Yeah, weekend day of week category. Okay. All right. So I gotta jump over to simple.js real quick, which shouldn't be hard. Just bear with me here. Simple HTML. Excuse me. Simple HTML. And I'm gonna have to release something. So first of all, I need to update the index, and we need to call this, day of week category encoder. Require src encoders, and let's get the thing right. What did I call it? src encoders, day of week category, day of week category. I need to go to package.json and bump version. Okay. So that's all we're doing is just we're exposing another thing. npm test. Okay, so I didn't break anything. npm, wait. Git add index package. Hey, I'm not building a singularity. Singularity's building me. I'll tell you what. Here's what I think about the singularity.
It's in your nature to destroy yourselves.
Yeah. Major drag, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Added weekend. Or no, was it weekday? It was weekday category encoder, right? Yeah, day of week category encoder. Day of week encoder to exports. 0 dot. What did I just update it to? 01. Crap. Crap. Zero 1 2. Okay, npm publish. This should publish a new npm package for simple HTML. And then I'm going to have to go into my package here and update this so that I get it. Okay. npm install. It should update simple HTML to 012. And got it. Did I get it? Yeah, updated one package. So now I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have to run dev again. What happened? What I break? Oh, I'm already running it. Right. Run here. Exits. Exits. Okay. Okay, so ID is marked as required in combined encoding. Yeah, I'm not giving it an ID. I can give it an ID though, and in fact it will need an ID at some point. So let's just give it an ID. Combined encoding, because it will be a DOM element. So this should work. Let's see. No. Get day of undefined. So time is not defined. Time is not defined. Okay, okay. This is probably something simple. So let's just see. Let's put a debugger right here and look into this. Data. Oh, this is the first data point and it doesn't have anything in it. So this is coming. So actually on mount, I'm not going to update.
Yeah.
Like that'll fix it. Hi, David. Okay, there we go. Oh, look at that. That's weird. Something weird's going on for sure. Something weird's going on. So that day of week encoding is odd. Is it not? That's not right. Okay, let's dig into this because that's weird. Okay. Oh, I see. Get day gives me the integer value of the day, not the. I need the string. Get day name. Do I really got to do this? I think I've done this like a million times before, so I do have to do it. Like putting all the day names in a string. I've done this before. I remember doing this at some point. Unless Harmony has introduced some way of the date to get the... I think you can get this from the date object somehow. But an easy fix is just simply saying, what did I call this? Days. And that's the index of it, and now that should work, I hope. At least, I hope it works. No. Yeah, there we go. That's better. So the day's not going to change until it goes through a whole 24-hour cycle. So I want to see it change. So how I'm going to see it change is in the combined encoding. Did we not give it like an update rate, right? We gave it an update rate. Update. Where? Oh, not here. Not in the combined encoding. It was in the. You know. I know. Bear with me. I know what I'm doing. I'm a professional.
Of course you are.
Romy? My kids make fun of me all the time. It's not fair. Okay, let's make it 100 milliseconds. Okay, boom, 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 boom. Watch that encoding change every 24. Yep. Next day. Next day. Next day. Boom. It's working. All right, so we've got one aspect of time encoded, and we can pretty easily change this. Uh-oh. No, false alarm. We can pretty easily change this if we want to. I mean, I can change the encoder parameters here. If we want to see this be a really big array, we could do this, and all of a sudden it's 10 times bigger or 100 times bigger. And now it's 6,800 bits. But we don't need that. 9 bits is just fine. So that's 9 bits being used for each day bucket, so that means 90 total. If I made this 1, it would simply be a 7-bit array, and it's just moving to the next bit every day, moves to the next bit, to the next bit. See, so it's super easy to do this type of time encoding using a periodic or cyclic scalar encoder, which is essentially what we're doing here. Like I said, if I make it 2, it'll be twice as long, and it'll be 2 bits per day value. All right, so that is good. I'll leave this at, I don't know, 9. I mean, it depends, and the way you do this is you want to weight it, like how heavy do you want your scalar value to be weighted versus your time. And I'll put the scalar value at a higher weight for now than the time, and we'll make this like 7 for a day of week. So yeah, the data isn't pre-generated, it's just generated on the fly. The function that's generating the data is this next semi-random sine wave data point. That's what's generating all this data. It just starts a year ago and just pushes forward, and I just call it over and over. So it's the same code that's generating this here. So this is essentially the wave that you're seeing pushed forward. And how will you show the change of slow? I'll just slow it down, right? I'll slow it down or speed it up. So we'll have control over how quickly this data generates. The update rate right now is something that we can pass into, that we're currently passing into this wrapped component thing, isn't it? How did we do this? With scalar data, spatial pool. Here's the update rate. So the tricky thing is, I think David's gone, but he might know better how to do this. It would be nice to be able. Oh, you're here. Yeah, it would be nice to be able to update this update rate on the fly, like through an interface or programmatically. Would that be hard?
No, instead of doing an interval, you would just call set timeout and call itself, and then you would set the timeout interval amount to whatever the prop is.
Oh, okay.
But in this case, you're passing it in not as a prop really, but as a higher order component.
Yeah, that makes sense. So we can do that on another day. For now, I'm happy with where we're at, but we'll get to the point where we'll want to slow it down or speed it up, and we'll figure that out when we get to it. So I still need to do more encoders.
I have a question. That string that you're showing where it says where it has the sine wave.
This?
Yeah, the mark on there. It gives the impression that you have data in the future that you're streaming across. Is that just like a D3 showing where the value is in the past? It's to the right of that diagram. It's is that being the generated data or is this pre-generated?
Okay, so it's a little tricky. It's I'm calling a function, and because of the way it's pre-generated. I pre-generated it up to a window in the future, and then every time it scrolls, I generate the next point, the next point, the next point. This is just an arbitrary cursor through that window of data. So I just call it a bunch of times enough to fill up the window, and then as time progresses, I'll just keep filling from the front as it moves.
I got you.
So we'll do something like this eventually. But for right now, all I want is the data generation bit for what we're working on. There's a lot of sirens today.
That's no good.
Nothing interesting to look at though. It's just boring stuff out there right now. Boy, I need a better camera. It's super blurry. It could be that just the window's bad. That doesn't really help. Anyway, I'm so easily distracted. Yeah, there was one car earlier. Did you see that? That was weird. One of them popped all the way down. All right. Okay. So let's on to more encoders. Something. Oh, that was me. Okay. So on to more encoders. We've got day of week encoder. And we have a color for it too. So I've got a value encoding and I've got a day of week encoding. Now I need day of month. So how was I doing? Day of month, I think all I did the right way to do this would be to find the day of the month and then find out how many days are in the day of the month and then encode that. I think the cheap way is to simply assume there are 31 days in every month. So I'm gonna do that easy and simple right now. So this would be, if we want to do day of month, there's 31 values, N is 31, W is 5, sure. So we're going to create a cyclic encoder for day of month. There's nothing particular about this. If we look at the simple HTML encoders, I don't think I have one for day of month, but I might have a test that does day of month. No, I just have weekend tests, scalar cyclic tests. I might have set up some tests that worked on days. Days of week, I did. Unique bit range per day with many bits. This was just testing. Yeah. Okay, so but basically I create a cyclic encoder and just set it the right way. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to create a cyclic encoder and we're going to call it day of month. Day of month encoder, new cyclic encoder. All right. The N is going to be, first of all, let's just make it 31 for now, because I want to see it work. Excuse me, that's not the W, that's the N, 31. I know there's not always 31 days in a month, but the W will just make 1. Actually, with the cyclic encoder, all you give it is W, right? Now I've forgotten. Now I've totally forgotten how to do it. No, you give it this. You give it NW. Yeah, that's fine. It just applies the bit map differently. Okay, so we'll have let's make 11 bits on. N is, I don't know. Let's make this less. Let's make this like 5 bits on over a window of 20 bits. Why is the W of the day of week 7? It could be anything. I'll make it 11 if you want. It's just how big do you want the buckets? How heavily do you want day of week weighted? That's the question, really. Min is 1, max is 31. I think that's all that we need for day of week encoder. So let's try this. Day of month encoder. So constant day of month encoding equals this dot day of month encoder dot encode time get date, I think it is. Is it date? I forget how to do it. I always forget this. JavaScript get day of month. I think it's just date. Yeah, get date. That should be right. So let's take a look. Let's see if our encoding looks reasonable. Okay, so this is encoding the 31st, and it looks like it's wrapped around, which is what we would expect it to be for the 31st. When it wraps around to the 1st, okay, let me turn the interval back down to like 100 milliseconds so we can see this really speedy. The next day should pop to the next bit. Yeah, so it's sliding along there. We've gone to the 2nd, the 3rd, and there's no change. You know, this is how scalar encoding works. It's just like a sliding window that moves along at a rate as we go forward. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm looking at these bits right here and how they move forward. Did you see that? That just moved forward again. Every time we move ahead in time enough, it'll move forward. So I can change this to, if I want to change the way this is encoding, I could say, okay, I want it to be bigger, so let's make it 15 bits out of 20, and now it's going to take a bunch more space, but it's still encoding the day of the week. Day of the month, not the week. So it depends on how you want to do this. I'm not going to weight the day of the month that heavily, I guess. I'll make it 9. I don't know, it just depends. Whatever you want to do. The min and the max, though, is specific for day of month, so that's... okay, so I've got 2 elements of time encoded right now. Next is weekend, and I have a specific encoder, I believe, the weekend encoder in simple HTML I can use for this, right? It was here. I think it's just weekend encoder, weekend, yeah. And all it wants is a W, and it's gonna say weekend or weekday. So we need to send it weekend or weekday. No, I don't think we do. All we have to send it is a date, and it will decide. Okay. So weekend encoder. This should be easy. This should be super easy. So cyclic encoder, day of week encoder, bounded scalar encoder. Let's put it here. Weekend encoder. Let's put this at the beginning, honestly, because that's the scalar. Cyclic encoder, day of week encoder, weekend encoder. Okay, so the weekend encoder, put down here, weekend encoder equals new weekend encoder. Nope. Weekend encoder. I don't think we need to send it anything. Well, no, we'll send it to W. We want it to be 11 bits wide, let's say. Okay. So, same as everything else. Const weekend encoding equals this weekend encoder dot encode, and then we can just send it into time because it will extract what it needs to from the time. It would be nice if we updated. No, let's leave it at that. So weekend encoding. Let's make sure that that looks like what it should look like. All right. So at some point, we're in a weekday right now. At some point, when we move 7, there we go. Now we're in a weekend, and it won't stay here very long. Now it's in a week. We're in a weekday, and it'll just stay there for 5 days, and then it'll go back to a weekend for 2 days. Still in the weekday, still in the weekday. Weekend, 1 day, 2 days, and then back to the weekday. Okay, so that's working. Dave is telling me that I can do that. Okay, I'll do that then. I always forget about this type of stuff. I didn't know you could do that type of deconstruction. So this will actually give me time and value inside of an object. That's interesting. I had no idea you could do that. Thank you, David. All right, 3 things encoded. Next is, we did day of month, we did weekend. There's only 4. There's only 4 time encoding. So the only thing we need right now is time of day. And the time of day encoder can also be a cyclic encoder. I'm gonna put it down here by the other one. Time of day encoder equals new cyclic encoder. So there are 24 values, so we're just gonna do this hourly. And so 0 to 24. So we're just gonna get hour of day. So the min is going to be, wait. When I say get hour of day, does it give me a 0 indexed? Again, JavaScript, get hour of day. Get hours, I do not trust. Returns the hour for the specified date according to local time. So I assume that's going to be, yeah, so that is the hour, not a 0 indexed hour. So the min is going to be 1, and the max will be 24. I think. Okay. And the W is my choosing, and the N is also my choosing. Time of day encoder. Okay, let's see if this works. So we're gonna send it get hours. Right here. Time of day. It's actually hour of day. It doesn't really matter. Hour. Let's call it hour of day because we're being pretty explicit. This dot. I called this time of day encoder, didn't I? I'll change it. Encode time dot get hours. Time of day encoder. Let's change that to hour of day encoder. And let's just see this and make sure that it makes sense. There we go. Ooh. So I do have an off by 1 problem here. So perhaps this isn't quite right, and I should, let's see what I want to do. Get hours. This will tell me the problem. Console log. I'm pretty sure it's the get hours is returning something out of the range I was expecting. Yeah, so it's 0 to 23, not. That's odd, but okay. I thought that's specifically what it told me, but it doesn't really matter. So 0 to 23 is perfectly fine. That should fix it. And now we've got a nice cyclic rotation. You see that? This is exactly what we want, right down through hours a day. So now we've got all of our encodings, like we said we wanted to do in the first place here. We've got all of our encodings. Oh, wait a minute. I didn't mean to draw on this one. We've got all of our encodings. So we've just done this bit right here. We've Got all these encodings all in different arrays, which is perfect. And we're going to combine them into one encoding that has more information than just ones and zeros. What's not? Are you guys hungry yet?
Kind of.
Let me go see where your let me find out where your mom is, if she's close. Don't say anything about my mom. I'm talking about your mom. She's all the way down. She's still at school, so. All right. It's 10 till 1. I'm hungry. I'm gonna go take a break. I'm gonna make these kids eat. Come on, let's go. We're gonna take a break. I'm gonna go. We're gonna put the BRB up here, and we're gonna go take a break. We'll be right back. You can watch the loop between the street outside and the office inside, and we'll be back in half hour or less, hopefully less. It doesn't take very long to eat. Come on, guys, let's go eat. That's just like your opinion, man.